Derek Sheridan from Rust Belt Basketball Coaches Network. A great question was thrown our way and it revolves around the day before a game practice. And there's a lot of different factors that go into that, and a lot of it's contingent on what kind of school you are at. If you're at a big school and you have a full varsity roster and a full JV roster and a full freshman roster, and you don't have any what we call tweeners, kids who play on multiple teams or participate on multiple rosters, that's a luxury. If you're at a smaller school and you have a lot of tweeners, then that presents another issue. If you've got, a really top 5 or 6 kids that you don't want getting after it the day before a game, that presents another dilemma. So there's a lot of things that go into this. And I've been in every scenario as a head coach of the aforementioned situations you can be in. But one of the things that we figured out, my last head coaching job was at a very, very small school. And one of the things we figured out how to continue to do this, we started doing this many, many, many years before I retired. And this is a way to get your reps in on offense and defense and have your second team get reps of offense and defense, your junior varsity team get reps of offense and defense, and keep practice moving quickly and keep practice crisp and get them out of the gym in a timely fashion so they can go home and get off their feet and rest or, enjoy an evening for once. So this is the basic layout. So we've got varsity versus varsity at this side of the half court with the head coach. And over here on this side, we have the freshman team or a scout team. Excuse me. My last job, we had to have alumni come in, and they were very willing to do that. If you have a freshman team, we've done that before in the past, utilize them. Uh, the second 5 on the JV. And sometimes if we've had younger coaches who were still able to play, we had to incorporate them into this side as well. So we'll start with this side. So while your team is warming up or doing their basic shooting repetitions or whatever you have them do once they enter the gym and practice officially starts, you're going to have your varsity assistant or your JV coach or your freshman coach or a volunteer coach, someone who's really good at presenting scouting reports to kids in a way they can learn. And he's going to take them contingent on what kind of gym you have, either to a side basket, to an auxiliary gym. Our freshman coach or JV coach, the last job I had, took them to our auxiliary gym, and he ran the top 5 kids who were on the JV, the best 5 JV players. And he taught them the opposition's most prevalent quick hitters. We were a 2-3 zone team. So through hours and hours and hours of scouting, we would find their most effective quick hitters and their most effective continuity zone offense. And we also like to know what they did versus zone coming out of timeouts or end of quarter scenarios. So he would run these kids through that, what I just said, or those situations, those plays. If we didn't have their names, we made up our own names. He gave them a name, and we just rolled with it like that. And then there's a dummy defense of if you've got your alumni here who are on the offensive team, if they're older kids who pick up things more easily, that's probably more uh, ideal. And then put the second string JV in the 2-3 zone on this side. So when you walk through it, there's a defense there, and it just makes the timing easier to teach of the set plays and whatnot. On this side of the floor, the head coach is going on, shooting, talking to the kids, whatever your pregame is, plyos, whatever your pre-practice, I meant to say, is plyos, whatever. And then you get into your offense and you've got 10 kids, or if you've got 11, 12, whatever, then you're going to sub them in and out. I have our 6th man on the varsity team down here in X6, and he would jump in for the person he typically subs for. But we're going to go through, we scripted our set plays into our blocker mover offense. So we would go through that game's scripts. We scripted in sets of threes. And what I mean by that is a quick hitter or entry into our blocker mover offenses, and we scripted those in sets of threes. And so we would go through our scripts. First three into lane per se, and hit Johnny coming off of a second flare screen. And so we would run Valpo into lane, and Johnny would come off of a second flare screen. We would hit him, and he would shoot it, make or miss. We're moving to the next set. I mean, bingo. Right now, we're going to the next set. And now we're going to run Valpo Vikings. And we're going to run that set. And we're going to go through every option of that entry or that set into lane. And we're going to hit Bobby coming off a back screen. And we've got to make 4 passes, and we've got to find a way to hit Bobby off a back screen. Now the defense here is hands behind their back, just moving. The offense is moving very slowly. We call this slow motion. Everyone's moving slowly, and we're just grinding through these things at about, not even half speed. We are just moving through these things, making sure our kids are getting shoulder to hip on their screens. We're popping our feet. Our screeners are popping our feet, but very methodical, very slow. There's not much jumping, if any. The defense is just there to help us with the timing of screens, so we know where the defense will be. We position the defense in the same way our next opposition will play defense. If they're pack line, we put them in a pack line. If they are a up the line, on the line team, we put them in an up the line, on the line. If they 5-man free switch, we have them switch, which creates a whole new dynamic of things for us to continue to work on and solidify going into that game. If they have if they switch like to like or big to big, then that's something that we've got to continue to carry over from the previous practices and just sharpen things up. And we're not going to go over every single set play we do or utilize. It's just going to be the first 3, second 3, so the top 9. That's it. And then we sub, and then we do it again with the subs in. And when I yell the word conversion, whoever has the ball on this end throws the ball to me, and the point guard runs down the middle of the line, lane line or midline. I throw it back to him. He throws the ball to the coach, and we convert from offense to defense. So the defense steps off, and they run to the other end. And now I'm going to do the same thing I did on this end with those guys. And the freshman team coach or the JV coach or the varsity assistant, primarily the varsity assistant at this end with the scout team, is going to take the kids, the varsity team now, and have them defend the first 3 things. The first 3 things they worked on the side out of bounds or in the auxiliary gym. Again, it's very slow and it's very methodical. And prior to each set or continuity, the coach is going to say, this is what they're looking for. Option A, option B, option C. Here is the best shooter. Here's his closeout number. Here's their best athlete. Here's their best driver. Here's his closeout number. Here's the post player they look to isolate. Here's his closeout number. And just reinforce the scouting report that we've been talking about all week, or the practices leading into this game. They go through that. When the varsity assistant coach feels like everything's been productive and he doesn't want to beat a dead horse and they've subbed at the varsity level, he yells the word conversion. The ball goes to him. Our point guard runs to the middle of the floor. He throws it back to him. Now he would throw it to me. We would rotate again in the same formation. And now the varsity team is going to go against the second 5 on the varsity team here. And we are going to go over in slow motion, our next 3 sets, each set ending in something such as punter, since it's our Valpo series, punter into triangle, and we've got to set 6 screens for a layup. And now we're making the kids think, and the offensive chatter should be through the roof. And that's always a great sign the day before a game. The same thing, it's an expectation on this end with the varsity assistant. And it helps if your kids are terrified of your varsity assistant. That was something that was always very helpful for us. Defensive chatter, going back to this side, another thing we stressed hard in the slow-mo was our rebounding responsibilities, our block-out schemes versus the alignments and where the shots were going to come from not only the opposition sets, but also their continuities. Now we go into a shooting drill, okay? We go an organized shooting drill. Typically, it was this side of the floor versus this side of the floor, something such as that, something fun. And the kids now go into free throws after the shooting. We always had water bottles set on every baseline behind the baskets so the kids could go get their free throws and drink water simultaneously, so we weren't losing practice time to kids standing in line at the water fountain or at the water coolers. After the free throws now, we jump back into this, and we should be down to our last 3 sets. And on this side of the court, we should be ready for baseline out of bounds plays. Coach is going to take the kids now and show them the baseline out of bounds plays versus our 2-3 zone that he is concerned about. My varsity assistant predominantly was in charge of our defense. I taught it. I was overseeing everything, but my varsity assistant was the man when it came to our zone. So they're working on baseline out of bounds plays. If they had a sideline out of bounds play that was sneaky versus zone for a lob or something like that, then he would definitely go over that just to reinforce what we've been working on all week. And on this side, we're going to brush up our baseline out of bounds plays. The way we called baseline out of bounds plays was dealer's choice. The kids, and this is the reason I'm getting ahead of myself, the reason we did this was I liked the tight huddle on dead balls. I wanted our kids communicating. I wanted everybody on the same page. The only person allowed to talk is the point guard. He talks, everyone else listens. How we called out of bounds plays, the kids got in a tight huddle, the point guard called the play, and they went and executed it. I had authority to override any call at any time. I very, very rarely did that unless it was a special situation in a short clock scenario. But that at least got the kids used to getting in that tight huddle. We called them quick huddles. We went through 3, 4, 5 based on out of bounds plays that we thought would work against this team, contingent upon what kind of defense they played and how they played defense. And then we would go through a couple sideline out of bounds plays, and the kids also called their own sideline out of bounds plays. And we had a kind of a funky way of running our sideline out of bounds plays, which will be a video for a different day. I think you can take this and make it yours. And it took us to make 100 words into 10. It took us from the coaches dreading going out on the court for day before games because it was going to be a sludge factory. The kids don't want to hear any more preaching about the scouting report. They want to get what they need done and get out of there, especially if you've got a limited roster and everybody's tired, including the coaches. So we came up with this and it became popular. The kids liked it. I'll be the first to admit, my last 10 years as a head coach, you better believe I paid attention to what the kids like, because I like having good practices. I like having an upbeat locker room. I think those things are very, very important. And the kids like this, and it drastically cut down our practice time. It drastically sped up the process of going over the scouting report again. Instead of having the kids sit around and me read to them, we're doing all of these things, reading the scouting report, the finality of everything that we need to be reinforced is going on while the kids are in motion. And that could be a video for another day, my opinion, on how the modern kid learns is completely different to how I learned material back in the 70s and 80s. Take this, make it yours. We just called it pre-game practice day. That's what we called this. I think there's a lot of great things you can do out of this. Make it yours, and I hope this helped you as much as it did help our programs. And a lot of my old assistant coaches who are now head coaches are still utilizing this. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you use it and get something out of it. I can't tell you how much it meant to me as to making those day before game practices not just more enjoyable, but more upbeat, more paced, and more energetic, and the kids coming out of the locker room ready for practice excited.